Welcome to the I Am One podcast, where we talk to perinatal mental health advocates, professionals, and educators supporting the mission of Postpartum Support International. We're not afraid to ask our guests about the hardest parts of pregnancy and postpartum because we know that PSI has tools and resources to help in every situation, and everyone should know about them.
Whether you are among the 1 in 5 moms, 1 in 10 dads, one of many trans or non-binary parents, or you're one professional or advocate committed to helping folks in need, you are also one of us.
I'm your host, Danny Giddens, and I am 1 in 5. I didn't know what to call what I was experiencing after becoming a parent and felt too scared at the time to speak up.
Not anymore. Now she won't stop talking about it. Hi, I'm your co-host, Emily Jankowski. I'm also 1 in 5, and I want you to know that mental health complications are common, but they aren't normal.
There's something powerful in knowing I am one of many. Whether you're already connected to the perinatal mental health world, looking for new ways to support parents and families, or just want to hang out with us in your earbuds, we are so glad that you tuned in.
Of course they want to hang out with us. We're lovely. Seriously though, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this pod are the speaker's own. Tuning into this podcast is, spoiler alert, not a replacement for therapy, but PSI can help you find a therapist. We could also help you find a psychiatrist, a support group, or Waldo.
Emily, Waldo? Come on! We don't know where Waldo is.
Okay, fine. PSI help seekers can find peer support and resources in their area.
At PSI, we want you to know you are not alone, you are not to blame, and with help, you will be well. On today's episode, we're sitting down with Lisa McCarty, a women's health advocate, a mom, and a writer who has long amplified her voice through words on paper. Today, we're in for a treat when Lisa's words will travel straight from her mouth and into our earbuds. We'll chat about what it felt like to step away from a successful career, something she had never anticipated doing, managing a flood of emotions after IVF, and the importance of sharing stories. We'll talk infertility, anxiety, PPD, we'll talk OCD. So, without any further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode with our friend, Lisa. Lisa, welcome to the podcast studio, and welcome to our earliest recording sesh on record. It might not be early for you. I mean, you're on the East Coast, 11 a.m., but it is 8 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast.
Thank you for having me, and I'm sorry.
No, we are so happy that you're here, and we're really excited to chat all things perinatal mental health this morning.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Lisa, I think we're ready to just jump right in. Could you give us a little bit of an introduction to who you are?
Sure. I am a writer and a women's health advocate, and I'm also a mom. I have 2 kids. My son is 5 and my daughter is 11, going to be 12 this year.
Are you okay?
We have 2 of those between Emily and I.
Having a little bit of trouble with that number because that makes me feel older, but also wiser in my age of motherhood. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah, so that's kind of who I am. I'm doing all the things.
Could you tell us a little bit about how perinatal mental health complications have played a role in your life, personally, professionally, all that?
Sure. So after my daughter was born in 2012, I had some complications after delivery, and I had an emergency D&C. And so I think that was obviously not part of my birth plan. In my mind, prior to that, during pregnancy, I knew nothing. I struggled with infertility for a long time to even have her. It was a few years before we even were able to get pregnant. And she was my first round of IVF. And so the pregnancy itself, I was anxious, I would say, throughout, just because it had taken us a while to get pregnant in the first place. But then to have complications after delivery sort of was an added factor that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that, my doctors checked on me physically, but I don't think that the checklist that they provide at 6 weeks, which everyone is very familiar with, the 6-week checking point, where they have you fill out some arbitrary, like 8 to 10 questions to say, yes, are you feeling anxious? Yes. Are you, have you had any thoughts of, whatever? And I think I sort of thought, that's it. Like, this is the check-in. This is the mental health check-in.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was actually seeing a therapist. So luckily I had the support system in place, but it took me a while to kind of be able to talk about a lot of this stuff as far as like to my husband, who I'm sure was tired of hearing about all the things pregnancy. But as far as perinatal mental health and how it impacted me, I would say it kind of onset during pregnancy as expected, just sort of the jitters of becoming a mother.
Yeah.
Anticipation of things going wrong because of my struggles to conceive. And then also afterward with complications that I didn't expect. I didn't know that I was going to have more time to recover. That was definitely like threw me for a loop. And I felt sort of unsure of how to deal with it. And so I talked to my therapist about it. And it's not some magical pill you can take to just make it all go away. You have to just go through it. And actually at the time when she came, because we had struggled for so long, I was actually working like 80 hours a week prior to having her.
Oh, Lisa, 0 stars. Do not recommend.
Do not recommend.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was going through treatment. I was trying to get pregnant and then we had her. And so 3 months after I had her and all the complications, I sort of, worked through that physically, but mentally I was in a not good place. And I talked with my husband about it. And luckily we had the means and the ability to have me step back from work. And so I actually resigned from my job and I was like up for promotion and doing really well. And I realized that like my physical and mental health were not where they needed to be. And I just wanted to be with her.
Mm.
So I made the choice to step away from my career, which was not what I expected. And it's not what I wanted. Because it was like a grieving process of the life that I had before I became a mom.
Oh, yeah. It took so long to get, you had worked so hard to get there. And then, this isn't what I expected at all.
Yeah. And then after, so I quit my job and my boss was like, of course, shocked. He's like, wait, you're supposed to take my job. I'm moving up. But like, what do you mean you're leaving?
Mm-hmm.
I was like bawling in his office, which I don't think I've ever cried in front of a boss before. And it was just, I think it was the combination of the hormones sort of stabilizing and then also the grief of ending a part of my life and starting kind of a new part of my life.
Yeah, because you worked really hard for that too.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, sure. And so many women talk about this, but it's like that conflicting position of your career and motherhood kind of trying to find the balance. And there's no real balance. Like, we know that. Something ultimately suffers. It's either you and your mental health, or it's the job, or it's, the kid isn't getting as much attention. And either, in any of those scenarios, it's not ideal. And so I chose to step back from the job because at that time, it didn't feel like I could do all the things as well as I wanted to. And that's not to say that you can't. It's just at a point of time, I felt overwhelmed and like I needed to kind of recenter myself and figure out how to take care of myself and take care of a living child and the house and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like kind of my first entree to what it means to be a mother and how to manage mental health. And so I continued through therapy and that was helpful, but not a lot of people around me knew what was going on. And I didn't really talk to other moms much about it. And I did actually, it's funny, I didn't even think of this until now, but I started a mom's group.
Like a play group?
Like a meetup kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Where Meetup app was like a thing. I don't even know what the app is. But this is like, I'm really dating myself now, but this is like a decade ago. So those, Gen Z moms that are listening, millennial moms, like,
woot woot.
Don't judge. So I like signed myself up for some free app and I like created like a mom's group. And it was nice to kind of commiserate around early motherhood with them. That was a connecting point, and it felt like I was less alone, but really still wasn't talking about what was going on in my head. It was more like, I have all these wonderful snacks and I like put myself together and, like I just was trying to fill the part. And I think in hindsight, I look back now over a decade later and I say, gosh, I really was like trying so hard to fill the part, when in actuality, like I already was the part and I just wasn't accepting that of myself. Like I thought I had to change myself to adapt. Instead, like I just needed to focus on being a mom, and like whatever I was okay. Cause we were all like a hot mess. Like, we all came to the meetups like together and we were like, we all looked cute in our little outfits, but like, I think we were all just exhausted. We were all just burnt out from the lack of sleep and all the things that early motherhood bring. I mean, you guys can relate, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's so hard. It's so hard, that transition.
Okay. So it almost seems like you were able to commiserate around like the logistics
Yes.
of new parenthood, which are very difficult. Like how do we get the kid to sleep? What method are you using for teaching them not to be a little monster or whatever once they're toddlers, like whatever it is, right?
And serving them the perfect food and like that pressure to sort of do all the things right the first time, because that, as especially first time mothers, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, but then we also feel the pressure of others, that sort of peer pressure, like, oh, what snacks are you giving your kiddo? And, oh, I need to buy those. Like now I feel like I'm giving my kid the wrong snack.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's so hard.
And it wasn't until like some article was written by, oh my gosh, the US government started like a Bureau of Children in like the early 20th century. And there was an article that was written that was basically like, mothers can no longer trust their instincts. They need to look to experts to parent their kids. And so every mother since then has gone, well, what kind of food am I supposed to feed them? How do I get them to go to sleep? Like, tell me, insert parenting style, right?
There's so many pieces of that though. Cause I nursed with my daughter and I was nursing her to sleep.
Oh,
I mean, everybody
Same.
who is a first time mom who has the ability to breastfeed, and with my son, I wasn't able to do it as long, but it's to each his own. I think it's so hard because it's like the pressure to breastfeed, pressure, don't give formula. Like, okay. And now we are 10 years later, like it's okay to give formula. And then the snacks that you're providing.
What do you want from us?
Yeah.
The motherhood mental load is so heavy. Yeah. And it's not just that. It's actually like getting yourself out of bed to function, to get dressed, to put makeup on, to do your hair, like to look like a human being and also keep this other human alive. That is, that in itself feels like a lot. So, I mean, I think these groups were amazing and I highly recommend for any new mom that is in the thick of the transition of first time motherhood to absolutely like connect with other moms who are first time moms. And it was the best thing I ever did. It's probably what got me through it because my husband was traveling constantly at that point. So it literally was just me and her alone all day long.
Wow. Yeah.
And so that is enough to make someone feel isolated and like you are failing at every turn, or you don't know what you're doing at every turn. Like, am I putting the diaper on right? There's a diaper rash. So what do I do now? Call the pediatrician all day long.
Mm-hmm. Because we have to look to experts.
Right. And so I think it adds to the pressure, but it's sort of like disheartening to hear. And I remember seeing those articles and I still do to some degree, but I really think as moms and as women, we need to like come back to that center space again and say like our intuition, our gut feeling is always the right answer, whatever it is.
Yes.
If your kid is on a screen, for example, like my toddler was because I was exhausted. She wasn't sleeping, all the things. It's okay. In a nutshell, like she's turned out fine. Like all of those choices that I made in my early motherhood, I don't regret them. And I try not to guilt myself for choices that I made. And honestly, actually, I can put this in as a positive. And I think we sometimes forget about the wins. I have literally saved her life like multiple times because she stuck a quarter in her mouth at age 2.
Okay. That's just...
Don't do that. God, kids.
Yeah, knock it off.
Heimlich maneuver. Husband is out of town 100% of the time it's ever happened. Always. I turned I had done the child CPR. Okay. I did all the things we were supposed to do. even in those perfect scenarios where you do all the things right, it didn't work. So I turned her upside down and hit her on the back, and it popped out. And thank God, because her lips were turning blue. Like, it was one of those motherhood moments where you're like, thank God I'm doing something right now, you know?
Did she kind of just like pop back up
fine.
and then like
Yes.
move on with her day? And you're like, oh my, and nobody saw it happen.
I was panicking. You know, throughout this sort of mental load journey from the beginning with her, I think I have also learned to laugh when I needed to laugh, because I called my husband, you know, of course, after I talked to the pediatrician, like, is there anything else I need to do? Like, she's breathing, you know, and they're like, no, she's good. Like, if you got the quarter out, she's fine. Just, you know, keep an eye on her. It was only like that 30 seconds probably. But now we can laugh about it, because it's like one of those moments in parenthood where you literally have zero control over what's happening. And the only thing you can do is try to protect your child and try not to go insane in the moment, right? I mean, keep your mental health in check, I guess.
Part of the checklist with the nurse that you called probably should have been like, and Lisa, how are you doing right now? Are you sitting down and breathing?
Right.
Do you have a glass of water?
Right. Well, and that's why I say I can laugh now. And we even laughed probably like when he got home from his trip, because to this day, stuff only happens when he's gone.
Oh, yeah.
So
like you had one job, keep the child alive, swallows a quarter.
Well, this is our job. They really should give you like a certification when they're born to say, you have to just keep this child alive for, you know, the next 18 years. And then there will be their job after that. But
then after that, you need to keep them on your insurance until they're 26. And I'm just kidding.
And then you have to check on them constantly to make sure they're paying their bills.
They're going to need a little financial help.
Yeah.
Every time you take them to the pediatrician, you should get a stamp. And then when you got 10 stamps, you get to get a prize.
Right.
Yeah.
Like every time you like that they grow or they learn a new word, you get a stamp. Right?
Oh, I like that. Let's do this.
Oh, it's like, you know, when
we
you get
need
that I voted sticker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's it. That's how we're going to solve everything. I'm kidding. But it would help. A little recognition would help.
Yes, please.
Hello.
So this community that you created was part of your
identity. I mean, I think
and part of your like seeking help, would you say? What else did you do to kind of get yourself back to neutral again?
You know what I actually started doing when this was like a thing, not body pump. What was the thing that everybody was into like 10 years ago?
Oh, TRX?
It was like where you, like Insanity. Remember the Insanity workouts?
Oh,
God, yeah.
Okay, so I was like 6 months postpartum. Like I had to like kind of wait until the body was like, I was really trying to get the body back, you know, like literally, like, can we just stop saying that phrase?
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I was like, okay, I want to be the hot mom, you know, like I want to look good. And I was just not focused on the internal. It was the external. And I just thought I was doing all the things right. Meanwhile, still not dealing with the mental health piece as much as I should have been. But yeah, so I started doing Insanity workouts, and then like a week in, because I was doing them like every day, like the jumping is like, oh my God, it's so ridiculous. And then I had to go back to my my physical therapist because I literally injured myself. It was but I can laugh now because it's so funny. I'm like, what was I thinking?
She's probably like, you're doing what?
I was seeing her prior for like complications from infertility. Like I was having headaches and neck pain and all, you know, like my body was all out of whack.
Oh, yeah.
And then I hadn't seen her in like 2 years. And then I started doing Insanity workouts, and she's like, oh, you're back. What did you do?
She's like, yeah, I threw out my sacrum.
Yeah. I literally, like my SI joints were like all out of whack from delivery. This is what they don't talk about the mental load, and they don't talk about like the physical change that your body goes through after having a child, that you literally are never the same person again.
No.
You want to be the same person. I wanted to be. And I think that is part of that pressure we talk about. So anyway, yeah, so I went to see her, and then I was able to resume exercise, but I did it in a much more practical way. Like I started doing elliptical instead of, like the hardcore, like the jumping. She's like, okay, you need to let your body like heal from having a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? The prostaglandin that like ends up in your body when you're like midway through to the end of pregnancy. Prostaglandin is what causes all of your joints to loosen.
Yes. So she said it's essentially like hip laxity. Yeah. So like,
yes,
through pregnancy that happens, and then postpartum as well, which I obviously didn't know. I wouldn't have been jumping in my townhouse doing like high intensity work.
Everything's fine.
My small child watching me, like,
mommy's getting her body back.
Right.
You're right there.
as long as you look good, that's all that matters.
Hashtag priorities.
Meanwhile, yeah. So you asked like what else I did to, get support. I would say it was connecting with other moms. And then many of the women around me were already having children. So I was like basically like the last one, it seemed.
Oh, okay.
So I also felt like I was playing catch up for a while. Like aside from my first time moms group, like everybody else in my sort of circle of friends had either already had children and were on like their second or third or fourth, like good for you. But for me, I was like, just trying to keep up with the first one.
You're like, wait up. I've got this one.
Yeah, I got it. I'm a hot mess, but it's okay. So yeah, so things got better and I continued with my therapist. And then I actually was diagnosed with OCD, which I didn't know a lot about. And I think it's important to talk about it because a lot of women with anxiety don't realize there's different types of anxiety. And so as a mom, I became obsessed, and I will at some point write about this too. I do think we as moms obsess about things being right anyway. And we want, like, it's almost like that joke. There's probably like a Far Side or like that's a dated reference, but
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
We get it.
It's like, no, honey, don't bother doing it. I'm going to do it myself to get it right.
Yeah.
The controlling thing, which I think as moms, we want to have control, which again, we don't have control. They are not robots. We cannot program them. As much as my therapist told me that like 100 times, I literally had to be reminded constantly, like, why aren't they sleeping when I want them to sleep?
I've done all the things correctly.
Right.
Why is this not then producing the results I'm looking for?
Yeah. And he literally had to say the words. He's like, because they are not robots. You cannot program them. And I'm like, why not? Like, why?
And you're like, does not compute.
Right. It's not a marionette. I learned more because I actually ended up working with an OCD specialist. And OCD is essentially obsessive compulsive disorder. But a lot of people sort of misinterpret what that means. Like they think you go to the sink and you wash your hands 42 times. Like, that's not me. I actually was more obsessed with everything being right. I had to make sure she went to bed at a certain time every night. I mean, every mother kind of does a variation of this, but like to the extreme. And I would be anxious if she woke up at night because I felt like I had to get her back to sleep. And then without sleep, as we know, that affects our mental health too. And so I was just exhausted and trying to make everything perfect all the time. And it's not possible. And so I started to realize as I got further into toddlerhood, the more that I couldn't control her, the more that she sort of became her own human being, the more that I had to just let go a little bit. The OCD kind of found other things to think about. It was like worrying that like if I'm working too much, because I did start working again. I started my own business like several months after I had her. I quit one job and then started another because it gave me what I thought was the freedom to work when I wanted. But in actuality, it actually was more work.
Yeah, make my own hours.
Yeah.
I said. It'll be fine.
That'll fix everything.
Yeah, right. I know. There is definitely a misperception with being your own boss and mothering at the same time. Like people just think, oh, you're working from home. So like, you can do whatever you need to do and you have care. Nope, don't have that either. Like I didn't have a nanny, I didn't have help. So it was a big struggle. So anyway, so yeah, I guess I kind of transitioned through that, learning more about myself and OCD. And what I learned in my therapy so he spent basically 30 years in practice. He actually just retired like a year ago, but I was working with him for a long time. And he taught me that you can't change the thought going into your mind, but you can change your response to it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is the method that he used to help me understand that some of my intrusive thoughts that I had and OCD thinking could actually be changed. Like I could actually change my response to, for example, like let's say she wouldn't take a nap. I would obsess about trying to get her back to sleep and like rocking her to sleep and nursing her to sleep and doing all the things that I knew how to do, which every mother does.
I have a question. Were you also thinking about the laundry list of things you were not going to get done because she wasn't sleeping?
Yeah, of course.
Relatable.
I mean, I think every mother does, but I also thought that I was failing. And with OCD, what you do is you think to the extreme. So I thought to the extreme, if she didn't take a nap, she was going to be a disaster at bedtime, and then nobody was going to get any sleep. And then tomorrow I was going to be in a mess. You know, like it sort of spirals into.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
You go, you're 5 miles down the road in your brain.
Yeah. You're like from here to here. And my husband's like, dude, just everything's going to be okay. You know, he's like my grounded force, and he's so laid back. And it's so nice to have that balance, especially when you have any form of anxiety as a mother, which we all, you know, have to some degree. So the more that I learned about myself and the way that my brain worked and the way that I could not control my thoughts, but control my response, I would push myself to do things that I was afraid of. Like, for example, if she didn't take a nap, then I would just let her lay in bed. It didn't have to be an anxiety-inducing thing. And it could just be like a release of control and letting whatever was meant to happen, and like take a nap while she was in her bed. She's safe in her room. I could see her on the monitor, you know, like, and sort of releasing that control. And so I was changing my response. Instead of being anxious, I let myself have a break.
That must have been really hard at first.
It was, yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And I think the biggest lesson I learned, like through the process of her growth, because I had to continue doing that in every phase, every time. And you know this, you know, as moms, like every time they change, every time there's a transition or a milestone, your whole body is like, what is happening? Why, you know, oh, she must be teething. Maybe there's something wrong. Maybe she has an ear infection. You know, like you go into solution mode and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, because whatever tricks you had used before that worked now don't.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of juggling.
It's like someone erased the programming that I put in there, and now it doesn't work anymore.
Right. Again, they're not robots, but we think they are. And so like, why can they not remember what they learned 3 months ago, you know? Or they were sleeping 12 hours and now, oh my God, she's waking up 3 times a night. What am I doing wrong? And then of course we default to what am I doing wrong?
Oh God, right?
It's such a vicious cycle of thinking where you go from, I'm doing a great job, I saved their life, I got a quarter out of their throat, to, you know, and I made some new mom friends and they probably think that I'm doing a terrible job, but it's really nice to connect. And then to, you know, my kid's not sleeping. So I think there's just so many sort of moving parts constantly that you really have to realize. And it's easier said than done. And I can say this now because my son is 5 and we're like kind of through some of the harder parts of the early years. But even now, he is his own person. You know, I think some of that is just releasing control, recognizing there are only 1,440 minutes a day. You can only do so much. You're only one person and you're doing the best that you can. I mean, I think that's the best possible advice that I can give with motherhood in general. It's so hard. It really is.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself that I need a Post-it on my computer that says, if it doesn't get done today, it will be okay.
Yeah.
As long as your kid is like healthy and, you know, happy and being fed and has a house over their head and you are making some time for yourself in the day. For me, it was naps when she was napping, you know, like they say, sleep when the baby sleeps.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, right. It's such a joke because she gave up her nap at like 2. So like,
I got stuff to do. I'm not sleeping.
Right, exactly. But with him, I did things differently. I actually hired a sleep coach because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing because it's been, you know, there's like 6-year age gap. You know, we struggled to have him. It took about 4 years. And then I had multiple losses. And so I was an anxious mess for that pregnancy, even worse than the first one.
Of course.
And then I had more complications after he was born. which took 4 months to recover because I had severe anemia from postpartum hemorrhage.
Oh, wow. Wow, Lisa.
Yeah, so awful. And again, the pressure to come back to yourself. But this time I did things differently because I recognized I needed help. I needed my husband. And I also didn't talk a lot about this to anyone after I had my second because I had struggled for so long to have him. I didn't want to complain.
Oh, you were worried about how it would look.
It was like that need to be grateful for what you have, because of course I was. Because some women walk away from infertility with nothing. And I know many of them that are struggling with it now. And I still see that side. Like, we are so lucky to have what we have.
But just like those women can feel two things, they can feel happy for a friend and jealous and sad at the same time. We can feel grateful and also super annoyed and overwhelmed. Like, it's okay.
And well, I would even say isolated and depressed. Because after I had him, I was devastated that my body wasn't back to where it was, but it was in a terrible place. And I was like, couldn't even get around the house.
Oh, hey, did you think about doing insanity workouts?
Yes.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
No, I literally couldn't get up and down the stairs. Like, I was a mess. And I was on iron because they had to check my iron level every few weeks. So like, I was a mess. But what I did recognize and what I did learn and what I did change in my way of thinking, thanks to therapy and thanks to asking for help, which I do realize now is okay to ask for help. If you're listening to this right now and you are struggling and you feel like you're failing, you're not. Just please know that, because wherever you are, it's okay. Like, I had days that were horrible and I had days that were better, but I asked for help that I needed. I mean, I can't say enough about my husband because he was doing a lot of the work. I actually feel like I was like almost on vacation to some degree because, you know, I was still getting up with the baby and nursing and all the things, but like, he was doing the heavy lifting and taking care of our other child and all the things. So it's okay to ask for help. And I think support system wise, it was the mom's group at first, it was therapy, but it was also delegating things like when I couldn't do them. So like, his mom came into town after our complications and after my son was born, and she did the cooking. She did because I couldn't do anything. But it was like one of those moments where you're like, stop, and you're just like, close your eyes. Like, I'm so grateful to have a support system, you know, because if you don't use that support system, then you literally are doing all of it. And then you're just burning yourself out.
Exactly.
Not good.
Yeah. Lisa, you're a writer. When did writing about motherhood like come into being?
So I actually when I was in college, I actually got a degree in creative writing, and I wanted to be an English professor.
Same.
Did you? Oh, that's so fun.
Emily too.
Oh, yay. My dad told me after I graduated, he's like, well, teachers don't make a lot of money. Writers don't make a lot of money. He's like, you're going to need to find another occupation. And I was like, okay. And I minored in art. And so I was like, oh, can I be an artist? And he's like, nope, they don't make money either. And so,
thanks, Dad.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. He worked for the government for a long time. And so he, you know, he's just sort of like a rational military man. Like he knew what worked and what didn't. And he also wanted me to be successful, obviously. It's like looking after me. You know, we were talking about like taking care of our kids. Like he wanted me to be able to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And so he's preparing me for the world. And my mom did the same. So I actually put writing kind of on hold and ended up doing business development. And I was like a people person on the outside.
Yeah.
Internally, I was like, God, this is exhausting. You know? I'm like an introverted extrovert. Like I love talking to people and I love these conversations, but I also like to be at home with my family and not talk to anyone. You know what I'm saying? As moms, it's like you have to be social, but you can't handle all of it. You need a break.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I kind of shifted career, and I've always been a writer. I wrote poetry throughout life, but then I think what changed everything for me was when I started my own business, when a few months, it was like 6 months after Ella was born, almost 12 years ago, I started doing PR and communications and copy editing and writing like press releases. And so like I was kind of using all the things I knew, but in a different capacity. And then after I had my son, when we were basically done with infertility, finally, after 10 years, I finally felt like I could talk about it. Like it took some time. So over the last like couple of years, basically, I've just been writing poetry. And so I actually have a poetry page that's separate than my other. I kind of hide in the poetry community. And it's like, all the things from grief to mental health to motherhood, parenting in general, to loss, pregnancy loss. I mean, it's all the things. And then I started realizing like some of the things I was writing about motherhood and infertility and pregnancy loss could potentially help other people. And because towards the end of my journey, when other friends revealed to me that they had miscarriage and that they also struggled to get pregnant and that they also were depressed in motherhood and they also had postpartum depression, which I had when I was weaning from breastfeeding from my son, there were so many things that I like all of a sudden was writing about. And so I wrote a poem about having my son because it took so long. And it was actually published on Motherly. That was my first poem.
Incredible.
And I was like, oh my gosh, people want to read what I'm writing. Like this feels, and then all these comments and people sharing it. And it felt like that motherhood group that I met, the ones that saved me in the first year of motherhood, who I still talk to a few of them. Some of them have moved away, but we still stay in touch and we're still friends on Facebook,
Yeah.
And it's so funny to see their kids like all grown up. But those stories, those words that you connect with other people and saying, that happened to me too. And I felt depressed or I felt isolated or I felt like I just wasn't worth anything or whatever the feeling is, it felt like I could do something. So I actually did another piece for Motherly and then I sort of shifted and started writing personal essays. And so now I do both. So I wrote a piece for HuffPost, actually 2 pieces for HuffPost. My editor was amazing. He let me talk about miscarriage. So the first piece I had published last year was I had 4 miscarriages in a year. 2 words changed everything. And that piece was about my diagnosis of Asherman syndrome. That was essentially like my last year of trying to conceive. And it was to help other women feel less alone. And so they know that you can talk about miscarriage because I don't think a lot of people do.
Oh, for sure not.
Yeah. And then there was one other piece that I had published earlier this year that was about almost dying in childbirth twice, which is a major problem. And it's mostly among African-American women and women of color because of the issue with equal access to care and access to care in general. And so I felt really like I needed to tell that story because, number one, women don't speak up enough and advocate for themselves.
Or when they try to, they're ignored.
Yes, dismissed. I was dismissed by my doctor the day that I had my son. When she's pulling out the placenta piece by piece, I said, "Are you sure you got it all?" And she said, "I think so." And I'm like, "You think?"
No.
And I knew in my gut, and I pushed that feeling down because I thought she's the doctor. You're talking about experts know better than us. Well, in that case, I actually thought that she was the expert and I trusted her. And she was the one who did my emergency D&C with my first child.
So she should have known better.
And then a week postpartum, I started having pain in my belly. And I called my doctor and I said, "I think I have retained placenta. I know that's what's going on. I need to be seen for an ultrasound." And they did one and she said, "You do." And then they did emergency D&C and then I hemorrhaged a liter of blood and almost died. So we have to tell these stories in order for other women to know that they're literally not the only one. And I felt like for so long in infertility, in, motherhood, early motherhood, and then with complications, literally I thought I was the only one going through that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so isolating.
So I have one quick question before we get into the lightning round.
Yes.
When or how did PSI come into your life?
Yeah.
Because you're now connected with us. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So towards the end of my journey, as I was kind of navigating the end of my first child and then into having my second, I found PSI and I learned that you guys actually have resources online that were free and I had no idea. And I was like, where has this been my whole life?
Was it a suggestion from somebody? Like,
No, I just was like surfing the internet. I was like motherhood websites and like support. I was like support website. And then like it just came up.
and then PSI was like, we're here.
I wish somebody would have suggested it because I would have jumped on it so much sooner. And I could have used it in that first year of of motherhood when I was feeling so lost and like I was the only one.
Yeah.
Also, I wrote a piece for you guys on your blog. I think it was end of last year, if I recall. I don't even know what year it is, but I think it was last year, but it was about my postpartum depression that I had after weaning my son from breastfeeding. It was a poem that I wrote for the blog. It was kind of like a prose piece. Like I just really wanted to get my thoughts out, but I was really depressed and to the point where I was having not suicidal thoughts, but I had intrusive thoughts. And I know there's a difference between the two.
Yeah.
I actually had a breastfeeding doctor, which I didn't even know was like a thing because I was having issues with breastfeeding early on and I had found her, but I went back to her again and I said, hey, like I've been breastfeeding a while, but like I'm having some really scary thoughts. And it's like, she talked to me about it and she explained how when you're weaning from breastfeeding, that there's a hormone change and that when you're breastfeeding, it suppresses estrogen and that estrogen suppression can also impact, other things. And so what was happening was as I was weaning, the estrogen was going back up. And I think there's another hormone and I can't remember the name of it, but it was like that fluctuation of hormones was causing this depression.
Progesterone?
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I just like to talk about feelings.
Yeah. And I don't want to be wrong. So it was essentially a fluctuation. And she said it was really normal that a lot of women who wean actually do become depressed. And I was like shocked when I heard that because I thought when I think of PPD, like I think of women who just like want to kill themselves and like something scary, but I was thinking more along the lines of like self-worth. And she said that once we were done breastfeeding, like things would get better, but that I needed to keep talking about it. And so I talked to my therapist about it. So, I mean, you got to talk about it.
Well, I think that this is excellent. We have 3 minutes before we have to stop this recording.
Lightning round.
Maybe this is the pressure that we needed to finally maybe have the very first lightning round that is actually like a lightning round.
Okay.
Because we usually take like 10 minutes to talk through it. Okay, so are you ready, Lisa?
Oh, I think so. I'll do my best.
Okay, question number 1. What is your second favorite podcast? Obviously behind this one.
Yeah, of course. Second favorite podcast, Raising Good Humans with Dr. Eliza Goodman, I think is her last name.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys follow her, but she has amazing tips. And I love that what she does is she talks not only about motherhood and parenthood, but she also talks about the motherhood part, which I feel like there are not a lot of podcasts besides you guys, of course. There are not a lot of podcasts out there that talk about the mental load of motherhood and the pressure that we put ourselves under. But I love the tips she gives and I love everything that you guys are doing. And so I'm honored to be on my favorite podcast. So thanks.
Boom. Thanks. We're honored to be here with you.
I will make sure I do a review.
All right. Next up. Are you ready?
Yes.
What are you currently binge watching or reading or listening to if that's your preferred method of book consumption?
I'm more of I read and I listen to podcasts. I haven't really been watching any shows lately. I did watch the last season of The Crown, which was excellent. Highly recommend.
Okay.
Because I'm obsessed with Princess Diana. But,
Relatable.
she was just an amazing human. I'm reading actually like 3 books right now.
3?
Yeah, because they're like 3 different books. One is like a writing book.
Okay.
And it's called 1,000 Words, and it's by Jamie Attenberg. So if you're a mom and you want to start the process of writing, it's a great, easy read where you could just like pick it up at any time. And it kind of just gives you tips and like there's a bunch of really good stuff in there. Anyway, so that's one.
Okay.
I just finished a book. I don't know if I should recommend it though, because it's kind of heavy. Is a heavy book okay?
That's okay.
Any kind of book is okay.
Well, I will say Maggie Smith, she's a poet, but she's also a memoir writer now. You Could Make This Place Beautiful. And I read it like twice already. So I would say that's one of my binge reads. And then Lighter by Young Pueblo.
Oh, yeah. I've got that on my bookshelf.
I love him. And I just got his new book, The Way Forward also. But they connect with, like, the way that I write a lot of times is kind of pages before I go to bed. And so I would actually recommend that for any mom. You don't have to be a writer. I actually do this in my support group that I run too. We do a writing exercise for 5 minutes. Right before I go to bed every night, I do this. I just get a piece of paper or write it in the notes app in my phone. And I just write down whatever's in my head. Like if it's a to-do list, like it just clears out your brain. Or if it's like a poem, or if it's just like Dear Diary, like it reminds you of like being in middle school, but kind of just notes to myself about like whatever is on my mind, whatever I may be like ruminating over or I'm worried about, or an idea for a new piece that I'm writing or something. And I try to do that every night before bed because it actually just clears my head. And I think a lot of therapists actually recommend this too. And then I wake up and I feel more kind of clear-headed when I get up in the morning because I know whatever I need to do that day, or like it's already out of, my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. What is one thing that today you wishes that you could say to pre-recovery you?
I love this question. I was hoping you would ask. And you knew that I wanted to answer this question. So to my younger motherhood self, I would say, don't be so hard on yourself because you're doing an amazing job, better than you think you are.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like every mother needs to hear this, but I feel like I wish I would have known that then. And number two, like whatever choices you make, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, but whatever choices you make about your child and your parenting and your motherhood right now, like this kid is going to be fine. So just like do the best you can with what you got. And like whatever that is, it's okay. And then the third, I would say, take care of yourself. Set aside time every day. Even if it's just 10 minutes, 20 minutes, go for a walk, take a nap, give yourself permission to give the child to someone else. Disconnect for a little while, turn your brain off, close your eyes, disconnect, stop scrolling on your phone. Just like be with yourself. And like, I know sitting in stillness sometimes is hard because we kind of feel overwhelmed with our thoughts. Meditation has been the best tool I've ever learned, I would say, besides therapy, of course. And I meditate before bed every night and I meditate every morning. And so I would also say to my younger self in motherhood, give yourself a break. Just take the break, whatever that looks like, a nap, a break, a shot of vodka, whatever.
Oh,
I'm not promoting alcohol, but like, take the break, go out with your friends, like take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break. You have to.
Can we write prescriptions to parents? Take a break.
Take a break.
Yes.
Oh, I like that.
You heard it here first.
Yes, you deserve a break and you don't have to kill yourself to earn it. Just take it.
Right.
Like, literally.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Final question. How do you take your water?
How do I take my water? What? Is there context for this question?
Bubbles, no bubbles, with flavor, liquid IV.
With flavor these days. This is my massive Yeti.
Oh, nice.
I do drink my smart water. I know it's probably not the best thing for the environment, but I drink amino acids mixed with collagen, and it's basically flavored water. But it forces me to drink my, at least 8 ounces a day, more than that, and keeps me talking.
Perfect.
A lot of us struggle to stay hydrated, so we always like to ask what people are doing. So thank you. Emily, do you want to take us out?
Speaking of thank you, yeah. Lisa, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us today. I think it's so important to talk about the impact that physical trauma around birth can impact our mental health immediately following and in years afterwards. And also to talk about how difficult it is for folks to get pregnant and the impact, the things that we tell ourselves that we should be grateful. Thank you. Thank you for saying all of that today.
Yeah, we try to balance all the things as best we can. And we just got to do the best we can. And that's it. Like, it's okay. Whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the I Am One podcast. Check out today's show notes where we'll drop links to all the important things that we mentioned in this episode. Please consider sharing about I Am One on social media and following and rating our show wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. It only takes a minute of your time and, well, that'll help our collective mission of bringing resources and local support to folks worldwide. From everyone here at PSI, thanks again for listening.